So I said I would do it, and here I am about to show you 5 features that iOS 12 does better than Android Pie. Yes, I realize this is an Android channel with a lot of hardcore Android users, but I think it's good to see what features iOS has done better than Android, so in the future Android, as a platform, can improve upon those features or even develop something a bit more efficient and versatile. Recently I made a similar video where I showed off 5 features that Android Pie does better than iOS 12, so if you want to check out that video, click the I in the right corner. Also, I'm basing my results off the iPhone XS since it's the latest iPhone, and I'm comparing it to the Google Pixel 3 XL since its software is pretty much the basis for stock Android. Let's start it off with the iPhone's gesture navbar. This thing is a beauty. It's way better than stock Android Pie's gesture navbar in pretty much every aspect. It gives me a better screen real estate. Using it feels more intuitive, it has amazing animations, and getting the hang of it is pretty easy. Swiping up closes the app and jumps me straight to the home screen. Swiping up and holding takes me to my recently used apps, and dragging the bar in either direction, left or right, switches me between my recently opened apps. It's perfect. I think the only navbar that even comes close to Apple's level is Oxygen OS's gesture navigation. It has similar gestures, animations, and it provides a bit more screen action since it doesn't even have a bar, like the Pixels. But there are a few times where it can be a bit buggy and causes issues such as missing animations and transitions. Plus, this navbar is only available to recently released OnePlus devices, so it's still a very exclusive Android feature. You can download OnePlus gestures or fluid navigation gestures from the Play Store to replicate it, but I don't think the average Joe wants to go through the trouble of using ADB just to hide their stock navbar. Another great alternative is Samsung's One UI full screen gestures. It's just like the regular 3-button navbar, but instead of tapping the buttons, you're swiping up on them, and they're no longer visible. It doesn't feel as intuitive as Apple's gestures, but it's a step in the right direction. The second feature that I really enjoy about iOS 12 is security. Having very limited freedom within Apple's software means that you won't experience any malware. You can't download or install apps from the web, just off the App Store. It's only if you jailbreak that this issue can be introduced, or if you're not careful and don't know what you're doing. On top of that, even though Face ID is Apple's only biometric unlocking method, on the XS, its security is top notch. With all the sensors at the top to verify the structure of your face, it's really hard to fool this thing. Sure, it doesn't have the fastest unlocking speeds, but you also can't fool this thing with a printed picture of your face like on the OnePlus 6. I also appreciate Force Touch. Even though it's not really a software feature, it still integrates well with the UI. It's also one of those things that Apple exclusively made and is way ahead of the curve because no other smartphone competitor has a similar hardware feature. This opens the door to much more possibilities for each icon, button, or action you want to tap on. For example, in Twitter, if someone retweets with a comment, there are multiple ways I can interact with their tweet. I can quickly tap on it to open the tweet in full screen, long press it to bring up the menu, and with Apple's Force Touch, I can also press down on the screen to quickly preview the tweet that was retweeted and press down even harder if I want to open the retweeted tweet within its own page. That's something you can't really do on Android. The next best thing about iOS 12 is that they have a strong community of third-party app developers. Since there aren't that many iPhone models out there, especially when compared to Android devices, app developers in the iOS realm don't have a hard time making sure their apps are compatible with different devices. So it's really rare to find a third-party app that is extremely buggy or doesn't work with your phone. There's also the notion that iOS has several amazing apps that Android just doesn't have, and most of the time app developers release their app first on iOS rather than Android. Like I said before, this is because compatibility won't be an issue, and due to that fact alone, app developers will have a bigger audience to approach right off the bat. But this can go both ways. There are a few apps that Android has that iOS 12 doesn't. Finally, one of the main reasons why most people stick with an iPhone is because of Apple's ecosystem. And a big part of that ecosystem is iMessage, especially in the US. It's like joining an exclusive group and then having a hard time leaving it. When you message other iPhone users, those conversations get special benefits. For example, you can see when the other person is typing and when they have seen your message. There's support for high quality photos. You can play games with each other, send payments with Apple Pay, send an Animoji or Memoji for laughter, send messages with cool looking effects, that's my favorite feature by the way, and more. Plus, if you have a Mac, you can experience cross-device integration with iMessage straight from your computer. Sure, this is basic stuff for those of you who use WhatsApp or even Facebook Messenger, but you need to understand that most people in the US use iMessage, and those that don't, aka Android users, tend to use SMS because of all those iMessage users out there. It's mostly a US problem. Either way, those are the 5 features that I believe iOS 12 does better than Android Pie. Like I said in the previous video, I know it's going to be a war zone in the comments, so keep it clean. Drop a thumbs up if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.